Okay, I think we're good to go. Welcome to another overview of the SubHub application. Today's session, we're going to go through an overview of the sub-management side and the sub-experience side. Before we get started here, I just want to go into where this PowerPoint is at, or Google slideshow, I guess. In our registration page here, you'll notice that we have a materials link under the SubHub overview session. And so once you click on that, you should be able to view and download these Google slideshow. One thing to keep in mind based on, our session today, I may be making some updates to this, and if so, I'll make sure that those are completed, excuse me, by the end of the day so that you guys can have an updated Google slideshow. The slideshow has quite a bit of information on here, excuse me, in regards to helping you kind of like train the trainer material so that you can share some of this material to your districts when you are demoing the application. Okay, so if you do not, it looks like people have access. I see people accessing it, so that's good. Sounds like you guys are able to access this. So what we'll do is we'll get started here. Excuse me, I've got gremlins in my throat today. That's what happens when you get older. So this next slide is our agenda. So we're going to talk about the pilot period briefly. We're going to go into the SubHub implementation guide that we have out there. Excuse me while I get a drink. And then we're going to go and just briefly talk about what SubHub is again. I think everybody's pretty well aware of what it is. And then we'll go into details about the USPS and ESS integrations, how those are integrated in with SubHub, the SubHub's current roles that are out there, the configuration. We'll really get into the configuration because that is including part of the setup that you guys will be doing when you want to get a district started in the application. And then we'll go into the substitute management menu. So that's for the districts. So they'll be going in and being able to manage the menu, their subs, their sub lists, sub list chains, and all of that. And then the substitute experience side is the other side. So we'll go through what the subs are seeing and how they can get access to open assignments and how to manage their notifications and things like that. And then lastly, we'll cover any future enhancements that are on the horizon. Most of the ones that I list on here are ones that are currently in testing that the developers are actively working on. So we'll go through a couple of those as well and just mention those. Okay, so like I said, we are in officially the pilot period. So this demo I'm really using a snapshot of the 2026.11 release that will go out, I believe today. We are releasing weekly. But it's going to have everything up through version 10, which is the production version that we're currently on. And so in here, this, basically is intended to help, familiarize you guys with the functionality. That's what the goal is today. And like I said, our application is in active development. We are releasing weekly. And in our pilot period, I believe we have 6 ITCs and 9 districts that are volunteering to pilot the software. No one has started yet. I think this is part of the process, is to kind of get more familiar and the setup that you guys will need to do. So hopefully after today, those that are participating in the pilot feel a little more comfortable where to begin. The pilot touch base meetings, we've had 2 so far, and they do occur every 2 weeks. With this application, just please note that you're going to expect a lot of ongoing improvements, new features added in, anything that needs to be refined, because we will be getting a lot of feedback from those pilot districts. So lots of changes. I think I cringe every time I post an image, a screenshot in the documentation, because I know it's going to change, but that's a good thing. So once we get that information, that feedback from everyone, we'll be improving the documentation and, obviously the application and all those things. The user manual and the substitute guide, obviously, like I just said, are living documents. So those will be continually be updated to reflect our new features and enhancements. Okay, move on to the next one here. Chad, I believe Chad is on the call. Chad, oh, yes, he is.
Yep.
Thanks, Chad. I do have a slide here just talking about the ARIA deployment options. So I'll just let you take it away and help explain the options that are available to them for SubHub.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So we've added SubHub to all the ARIA service broker items. So if you're deploying that, it's not really going to be much different than deploying anything else. It's going to integrate automatically with ESS and USPS if those exist. And it's going to create with an empty SubHub database, obviously, that you have to configure from scratch. There's nothing to restore that from, starting from scratch with a new application. When you deploy SubHub, you will have to run the state software maintenance option and check ESS, USPS, and SubHub so that it'll restart all those applications and hook all those API keys together so that your integrations between those will connect up. So, but yeah, you can also deploy a demo copy of it. It'll link in with any demo USPS or ESS that you have out there. If you just want a copy for your ITC to start playing around with and looking at. And again, once you have some out there and running in production and you're taking backups of them and stuff, we'll be able to spin up test and train copies just like anything else. So, so if anybody has any questions on that, let me know here. And if not, it's really not much different than deploying an ESS or a USPS. Just another app in the chain here. So,
any questions for Chad before we move on? Thanks, Chad. I appreciate you being on the call.
Yep, thanks.
So what we're going to talk about first is we're going to talk about an implementation guide that we recently posted in the wiki. And in here, it's just very simple. It's just kind of talking about what needs to be done in regards to setting them up. Part of that, obviously, is what Chad just talked about, is getting them set up in ARIA with a new instance. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these links here, and we're going to go through just a couple of this, especially the new district checklist, and just talk about that so get a little more familiar with it before you get started. So, I mean, this is for, obviously, for you pilot ITCs, how, you get started, creating that instance and setting it up and configuring it correctly. And then for you, those of you that don't have a pilot district, but you just want to get more familiar with SubHub, you can follow the same steps and create a test or demo instance of SubHub and get more familiar with it, or if you would like to demo it to your districts. So I will go ahead and click on this this right here is the actual link. So when I do click on this, it's going to take me to the SubHub implementation guide that we have out here on the wiki. And so this is a public access page. You all should have access to this. And on here then, like I said, it has, the steps on how do I get started. So the first thing is beginning with that SubHub new district checklist. So I'm just going to click on this, take it to it. And this is part of our implementing state software main page that we have, where we have all of our application checklists. So that link takes you directly to the SubHub new district checklist. and we're going to be covering a lot of what's in here right now. So we'll be talking about the ESS integration, the USPS integration that's involved, your system configuration options that need to be set up, and just the general setup. So, when you're wanting to get started, you're basically going to use this checklist to go through and get your district set up. With all of our checklists, we do have a spreadsheet version that you can download and check off and share with your districts. This particular page is restricted to ITC staff only, so districts cannot see this page. This is for you to help you get your district set up in SubHub, but you can download this checklist and share this checklist with your district. So it does go through all the different installation options, like Chad said. He went through the ARIA hosting options. We have a link there to that documentation. It goes in and talks about, the different steps, and basically, step by step, what needs to be done in order to get their SubHub instance created and integrated with their existing ESS and USPS instances. So, like I said, we'll be going through a lot of this configuration, demoing these options, just so you get more familiar with them. I'm going to go back. And once, the setup is taken care of, it's time to train. Whether it's training the district staff, getting them familiar with the substitute management side of things. So they're going to be logging into the SubHub application. If they want to make any setting changes in the configuration, as long as they have the elevated role to do so, they can do that. And then, they'll probably be working mainly in the sub management menu. I'll just quick show you where that's at. That's this right here. And this is where they're going to be creating their subs, their sub lists, their sub list chains, kind of just, watching the sub requests that are getting created from ESS that get loaded into the substitute request grid in here. And also, there's an unfilled request grid as well. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it just basically takes, it tracks those requests that haven't been filled yet by a substitute. So real quick, easy way for, one of the district staff to see what's still open and hasn't been filled. So we'll get into all of that here in a little bit. And then preparing the subs. We do have a substitute guide that is just intended for the substitutes. The substitute or the SubHub user manual, not so much, but the substitutes will be able to read through the substitute guide. There is a getting started section that just provides step-by-step on how do I receive notifications, how do I, assign them to myself, how do I decline some or cancel some that I already accepted because I can no longer, do the assignment. So all of that is listed in that, all those steps are listed in that SubHub substitute guide. So once those are performed, then they're ready to go. So after configuration set up and everyone's been trained, the district is ready to begin using SubHub Live. So pretty basic implementation process. Okay, so before we actually jump in here, do you guys have any questions before we start demoing, before I start demoing the application? This slide right here is just basically an explanation, simple explanation of the product overview. If you haven't looked at SubHub at all yet, and you're like, well, what does it do exactly? It's basically automating those matching employee self-service leave requests that are marked with substitute needed with available substitutes. And it's creating those substitute postings in SubHub. So like I said before, ESS and USPS integration is required. They can use substantive list and list chains. So if you're used to employee self-service group and group chains, a very similar type of format. Those list and list chains are going to drive those notification workflows. Send those notifications out to the subs to let them know of available assignments. And like I said, this is going to continue to evolve during our pilot period. Before we get into the demo, I forgot that I had a few more slides here to talk about. I want to talk a little bit more about the USPS integration, how that's integrated in with SubHub. So one thing to keep in mind is that there are some things that need to be set up in USPS ahead of time. So obviously, an employee record, they have to have at least one email address and one phone number that needs to be in there in order for that sub to receive notifications about openings via email or text. So that needs to be included in the employer record, assuming many of the subs are going to be entered in USPS in order to get paid. So those need to be in there. On their related position record, in order to determine, how to sync the sub and determine which sublist or list chain that is going to be used in SubHub, the substitute flag in the position record needs to be enabled, and to also ensure that a position code is entered as well. So those are two things that need to be done on the position record. And the last thing is the building code. That building address information, is displayed in SubHub, so subs can see the location of the assignment. Where am I going? Where am I working at? So underneath the core codes in the building records, an address needs to be entered in order for that address to appear on the sub request. Any questions regarding the USPS integration steps? And this is listed in that new district checklist as well. Okay. ESS integration. So with ESS, there is going to be obviously talking between SubHub and ESS. So any sub comments that are entered on the actual ESS leave request, those will be carried over and displayed on the SubHub sub request. So if the staff member wants to include some instructions for the sub, that information can be put in there. I'll show you a couple examples here in a little bit. The sub acceptance in SubHub automatically populates the substitute information in ESS. So once a job posting or a sub assignment gets assigned to a sub, then that updates the sub request in ESS and fills in the sub's name and phone number. That will also go back and populate that information on the leave request in ESS. So I'll show you here one. Let me go into, I believe I have an ESS app up here. Go into I'm already in the view district leave. I'm going to pick on, let me pick on Miranda here. So in here, when she created her leave request, she had some substitute comments entered. So this does carry forward into SubHub on the sub request so that the sub can see this information. And then once that sub, and that was Drew, once he accepted the position, then scroll down here, and he accepted that, then what happens then is, like I said, it populates it, it talks back to ESS and populates that information in here. So obviously when Miranda created this leave request, she marked it as substitute needed. Once Drew accepted it, it populates his first, last name, and phone number here, and also will automatically populate the substitute scheduled and check mark that as well. So that's the information that gets updated on the ESS side. The leave cancellation workflow. So what if an employee cancels their leave in ESS? What happens then if they already have a sub, they actually accepted the assignment? No worries. What happens is it will unassign those subs in SubHub that are tied to that leave request. The affected days are going to be marked as canceled and like on the SubHub assignment grid. And most importantly, that sub is going to receive a notification that the assignment has been canceled and we no longer need them to fill in. So that's kind of how that happens in case of leave cancellation workflows. I go back to my here, I think I might have a canceled one. Here's one from Miranda here where she did, cancel it. And just to talk about this, I was planning on talking about this a little bit later, but I think I'll talk about it now while we're in here. The ESS view district leave and the sub-coordinator grids were updated recently to kind of track what's going on the sub side. So you're going to see a substitute option here, a substitute schedule, and a sync that can be added via the more option. And so the SubHub sync status just tells you if it was successfully synced, the leave request to SubHub. So if it shows synced, that's a good sign that it was synced with SubHub and it is on the SubHub side of things. Failed means that did not go over to SubHub. So in a situation like that, the app log is very helpful. I can go then to the app log and look this up and kind of determine why that didn't go over. Maybe there is a sublist that isn't working properly, sublist chain, person isn't on it or something, or the position record isn't set properly. That's causing that to fail. And once, we determine from the app log what the issue is and it's corrected, they can wait until it syncs again. I believe they sync every 10 minutes. And if I want to go ahead and do that manually, I can go and click on that particular one and click on resubmit to SubHub, and it'll do a direct sync again to the SubHub application. So that's another way to do that. But what I like about just kind of looking at, these columns that were added, this is basically telling me here that there is a sub assigned, sub is true, that a sub is needed, sorry. And then this one will tell me that the sub has been scheduled, whether it's true or false, and then obviously if it's synced. So if I filter this on substitute scheduled true, I can kind of narrow this down to see those particular leave requests where a sub has accepted the position and they have been scheduled. And again, if I look at one of these here, it will populate, from SubHub with that information. So, these were recent updates that were made in ESS, just so the person requesting the leave can see, is there a sub for, the leave request that I filled out? Is it, was it synced okay? The sub coordinator or anyone with a role to see the view district leave can see that same information. If I go up to the sub coordinator grid, those same options are available. So they can, if they have one that's failed and they want to sync it manually after they make the fix, they can and click on resubmit to SubHub. And also, the sub coordinator can kind of keep track as to what's going on with these ones that were synced. Obviously, scrolling down, if we see some that say not applicable, that means that those weren't leave requests where they needed a sub. So those will show as not applicable in there. So Julie has a question there. If a sub wants to accept a single day out of a multi-day absence, what does that look like? That is a great question, Julie. So I'm going to go back to one of these leave requests. That is a future enhancement coming up here. So here's one here where Levi has a 3-day request here. And so right now, if, right now this sub information appears here, but this is a 3-day request. So let's say sub A wants to take day 1, sub B day 2, and sub C day 3. What's going to happen is we have it set up already that when this leave request goes out, gets submitted, that there's going to be 3 different emails that are sent out for each day. And if sub A assigns day 1, sub B assigns day 2, and sub C is assigned day 3, what's going to show up, an improvement we're going to make, is under the leave request daily details, the sub information is going to move from that first screen, and it's going to display underneath here for each day. So they can see sub A's information underneath day 1, day 2, and sub C's information on day 3. So it's basically going to move from the leave request details area here into the daily details, and it's going to be listed here instead. So I believe I might have the JIRA issue number on the last slide. So if you want to watch that JIRA issue, I think I have that listed on there. Okay, let's go back. So, and I guess that answers the question here about the current limitation. So right now we are unable to split a single day leave assignment among multiple substitutes. So we can split days. So day 1, day 2, day 3, that's a possibility right now. But what if sub A wants to take the morning of day 1 and sub B wants to take the afternoon of day 1? We don't have that right now. That is something that the developers are currently working on, is to be able to support like these partial day or split day sub assignments. So that is on a future enhancement that we're going to make.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It was easier just to try and explain this than to try and put it in chat, so I apologize.
Okay.
So if you have an employee that is half a day at one building and a half a day at another, I have always recommended that they have 2 positions, 2 compensations. One position reporting to building A, the other half of the day reporting to building B, so that if they had to take off just half a day at one building, that building's principal would, the absence notification would flow through that building principal. So in this case, this would still work if they had it set up that way, correct?
Right, because what they'll be doing is when they create the leave request, they'll be able to select the position that they want to create the leave request for, right?
Right. So if they were taking off the whole day, that particular individual would end up putting in 2 leave requests, one for building A, one for building B. It totals the whole day, but in theory, it was half a day at one building, half a day at another building. So in this instance, they would still do the same thing, and then it would send out email notifications for each building. So there could potentially be 2 substitutes for that one particular leave.
That's correct.
Correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
okay.
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I think we're going to have some like FAQs created too, because those are good questions. Like what happens if this person works, one position here in this building and works a different position here in this building? How does that work? So I think those will be good FAQ questions so that, the districts are aware of how that's going to work with on the SubHub side and on the ESS side. Okay. This is what I just talked about a little bit ago, is the behind the scenes happening with when a leave request is posted and how it gets synced, the SubHub sync status. It's a pretty important column, and I really strongly recommend, like the sub coordinator, those in charge at the district who are tracking the subs, whether it's in ESS or obviously in SubHub, but in ESS, to make sure they have that SubHub sync status listed as a column on either the sub coordinator grid or the district leave grid. And then also, if they want to populate, the actual subs as well here, the sub name, is a sub needed, stuff like that. It's great to have that information in here. That way, too, they can filter on that as well. So I think that'll be really helpful for them. So this just talks about what we just went through a little bit ago about the behind the scenes. And if it does fail and they need to resubmit, they can. And yes, I wasn't quite sure, but it looks like automatic resubmissions occur every 10 minutes. So that does happen quite frequently. So Andrew's got a question here. Can the sub coordinator role be filtered by building code? So different sub coordinators for different buildings. I don't think they can right now, but I'm going to track that and see if we might have a JIRA issue for that already, Andrew. So we'll check that out and see.
Do you want me to put in a ticket?
Probably, unless somebody can see quickly if we have one, but it wouldn't hurt. That way we can increase the times requested on that too.
So my thought with that, and this might not be the right thing, but like forum for it might be better, a different one. But like a lot of our districts that don't use a product right now, it's like the secretary at the for the elementary school. Like there's not, this grid assumes that one person's in charge of the whole district, but that doesn't seem to be, at least in our area, the on the ground reality. Like, it's like, this person calls for these people, this person calls for these people. So like this grid is, I really like this grid, but maybe, and then are they dipping in on top of each other on this grid? But like if they're all seeing, if like 4 coordinators are all seeing this grid, is that good? Or I guess in the grid, can you filter it by building code? Like, even if the role can't be filtered, could we teach them, hey, go in here and type your building code in and then look at the requests, Well,
I think Amanda's on it here. We do have a JIRA issue for this already that is in testing. So
that's great.
She's got it posted in the chat there. It's JIRA issue 174. So thanks, Amanda, for posting that. So we do have something already in the works. So it's probably something that the focus group had requested already. So yeah, it's already in the works. But yeah, you don't want them tripping over each other, right, in the application, the sub coordinator. So I can see why you'd want something like that. This slide really is more of just a slide, like a train the trainer slide, just, explaining the actual sub-assignment workflow, how it works from this, the leave request happening ESS, and then how that flows over to SubHub. So again, the employee creates the leave. They make sure that the leave type and position obviously is selected. Vicki, you were talking about, there's 2 different positions. So they would make sure that they have the right position selected in the leave type. They put in the accurate start and end times. That is very important to make sure that they have those in there. Obviously, they need to check the substitute needed. If they do have comments, information that they want to share with the sub, they can put it in the substitute comments. One thing I wanted to talk about too, in regards to the actual substitute needed flag, we do have a couple of options underneath ESS that will let you default that flag for substitute needed. I believe our leave type configuration in ESS, jump back to that, go down here. There is a default substitute needed, but this is based on the leave type. So if you're, if the district is requiring anyone, using a sick leave or a vacation leave or what, that they want those leave requests, they automatically need a sub for them. They could check this, and then what happens is when the staff member creates a leave request for that particular leave type, the substitute needed flag is already checked. The other one is, I believe, the default substitute for appointment type as well. And this is based off of certified and classified employees. So if you want all the certified employees where you want the substitute needed, check marked by default, this can be selected. And when those certified employees create their leave request, that will already be checked. So those are just some default, settings in case there are concerns. I believe we might have a couple of other enhancement requests in regards to that as well. Boy, I'm thinking like based on position, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought we had other ones too to kind of enhance that a little bit more and provide different options than just those two. But, I think that's the biggest concern, is to make sure that that substitute needed is checked in order for it to flow over into SubHub. So once, obviously, that leave request is submitted, it becomes an open assignment and it's tracked in the SubHub application. And at the same time, notifications are sent to the subs based on those configured list chains that they have set up. So step 3, sub views it, selects it, accepts the assignments that they want. And then once that's accepted, it gets updated in SubHub with the substitute's name and phone number. And then that same information then gets updated back into ESS on the leave request. So a very simple workflow there. The sub roles, these are the current roles. Thankfully, we don't have that many at this time, but we've got obviously the admin, district manager, metrics API, those are user. Those are the standard ones we have in all the other applications. Sub coordinator, obviously, I would assume the sub coordinator in ESS is going to be the sub coordinator in SubHub. So these are all the roles that we have right now. This just explains what the sub coordinator role can do in SubHub. So it just kind of goes through that. The user role isn't really used that much right now, but I think what the plan is, I think we have a future enhancement that is to eventually assign a building code on the user record, and this will help control what staff gets notifications. So if a principal user in SubHub is assigned a building code, then they would get notified when sub requests are created for that building. So I think that's kind of the future purpose of the user role. Otherwise, it's really not used at this point much. Everyone that gets created in SubHub, that gets created a user account in SubHub, automatically gets the user role, but we don't really have any additional features on that until we get this building codes assigned to them. And I believe we have I know we have a JIRA issue for that. Okay. So what I'd like to do next is kind of step away from the actual slides and get back into the actual application and talk about these general configurations they keep adding. So, based on feedback and just, issues that are sitting out there that, have been worked on and completed. But the ones that are in bold are the ones that I want to go through and cover and show you. The ones that aren't bolded are the ones you guys are already familiar with. These are configuration options that we have already in the other applications. So I'm just going to focus on the bolded ones. So before I get started on that, any questions about the previous slides? Any further questions? Check chat here and see if there's anything. If the default is set to yes, can the box be unchecked for those positions that may not need one on the actual leave request? I'm not 100% sure, Vicki, on that. I would have to test it out. I'm thinking no, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So that's something that we'll test and see. It may be on the leave type one, you could then uncheck it, but I'm not sure about the classified and the certified setting, but we'll check that out and see.
Yeah, I guess it's like either, I mean, either area, because if you want to capture the majority of your staff, so say you say certified, and that's going to grab all your teachers, but then you have your superintendent who's certified, your building principals who are certified, that they don't necessarily, they're not going to need a substitute. But if it's check marked all certified, then they're going to have that box checked. So my thought process was that when they go in to put in a leave, could they uncheck that box substitute required, because you're capturing the majority of the district and being able to uncheck those few folks.
No, I totally agree with that. And and I was saying earlier about maybe having additional like options of let's base it off of building or something like that instead of just all or nothing. I was thinking that we may have some enhancements for that, but we'll have to look into that for sure to see, and if they do, it's have the ability to uncheck it if needed, regardless of the option,
And I'm thinking pay group.
That could have been one of the other ones that they had mentioned as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
okay.
So we'll look to see if those might be your issues that we already have, because I'm pretty sure the focus group may have mentioned that already.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's get into this here. So I'm going to go back into my SubHub application, and you'll notice our new logo over here off to the side, pretty snazzy. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the configuration options here. And like I said, I want to focus on those ones that are bolded. So this cancellation notice is something that I think we just put on the last release. And basically this one, if you have the district would like certain staff members to be notified when a sub cancels an already accepted assignment, then you would want to enter their select from the name of those SubHub users and enter that in here. So if this was, for example, Francis is the sub coordinator, I want to make sure that, they get notified, or, maybe a particular building principal, somebody like that. You want them to be notified of a sub cancellation. Then you would select those names, put them in here and save your changes, and they will get notified if a sub canceled an already accepted position. The next one is the one-time passcode. All of these are ones that are standard in all of our applications. So subs do not log into SubHub. They are going to access their assignments, their preferences via an email address and phone number. But with that, we wanted to make sure that we had some actual verification, security, in order to make sure that they log in securely. And so we have a one-time passcode configuration out here. And if I go back to the slide, it does a better job of explaining it. I'm going to go down to that option here. So I'm on slide 14 here. And this goes in and explains all the different settings. These might be the default settings. Oh, it is. And so in here, it just talks about how long do you want the code to remain valid. So if a sub tries to, access something, a leave request, they've got 10 minutes to get in there and look at their the opening, the number of passcodes required per hour. So what are the maximum number of codes a sub can request within an hour? They're just having a hard time trying to get through and accept that assignment. They've got 10 chances. And also the number of incorrect attempts that are allowed. So, and there's 3 for that. So obviously the district can configure this to whatever they want. But that's what the passcode verification settings are. And I'm going to go through a little bit later and talk about once sub does get an email about an opening, how that one-time passcode verification works. So we'll get into that here a little bit later, and I'll show you exactly what they can expect to get through the one-time verification code to actually be able to go in and look at that opening. The next one is, and this one is pretty important as well. This is the SMS configuration. This is the texting. And that option underneath the configuration is this one right here, SMS configuration. Very basic, is just saying, do you want to enable texting or not? But this is to be used with caution, especially when you guys are getting familiar with the application and testing things out, because obviously each text message sent through SubHub incurs a fee. So if you're going in here and you want to test this out, play around with it, you have to be careful as to the setup and who receives those text messages. So let me talk about those settings here. So obviously underneath the system application configuration, in order for texting to work, the instant type does have to be production. So if you're wanting to, if you are creating like a support type of instance right now for testing, but you want to test out the texting part of it, you would need to change the instant type to production temporarily. And you also want to ensure the external notifications are enabled. So that's the app configuration. And then what we're just talking about right now is also enabling the SMS notification. So those are the things underneath the configuration menu that need to be set up. So that sets a district up for texting, but the subs who are receiving those texts, they need to opt in to texting as well. So if you're wanting to test it out, and being a sub, you want to make sure that when you go into the notification preferences, that the receive SMS notification is enabled. So if you want to enable that temporarily, you can. And then what happens in it, you can send yourself a test text to ensure that that works okay. And then you can, go in and create, accept a leave request and see what happens on the texting side of things. So, but once you're finished with that, I would strongly recommend to disable or revert all of those SMS settings that we just talked about, so that you don't, complete any or, unintended texting and charging. So, obviously when someone's on production, a district is, and they set up textings, that's one thing, because they are, wanting to use that, their subs. But for our purposes of testing, just really be cautious when you're going in and setting those up. I haven't really done any texting testing. That's really hard to say. So far, everything I've done is just gone through emails. But if that's something you want to do, just be careful when you're setting that up. Any questions about the texting part? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the chain timers. So that's the next one here. And that is under our SubHub functionality. And so the only option we have underneath the functionality right now is the chain timers. And what those are is that allows a district to control when those sub notifications get released. If they want them to go to a particular group for maybe 4 hours first and have that subgroup have a chance to accept those positions. And then once that 4 hours is over, then they want to notify the next group for the next, let's say, 2 hours. That gives them the opportunity. And then maybe they have a third group then after that, that they notify then of the opening if it still hasn't been filled. So there, definitely maybe districts will want to do that and have that kind of a workflow of notifications. There may be other districts that just want everyone to get notified, all subs get notified at the same time. And if that's the case, then the chain timers will be disabled. They are disabled by default. And so what happens then is underneath, because mine are disabled right now, I can show you what that looks like. This is all under the substitute list chains. And if I would go in and look at a list chain right now, because I have the chain timers turned off, I don't have any settings here. I go in and edit this. I don't have any settings here on saying I want the elementary custodians, those subs, to get notified for the first 4 hours. And then I want the subs that work for the junior high building to get it for the next 2 hours. And then the high school ones can get it for the rest. Those aren't enabled. So basically, I don't have any way to set them up as a priority notification because that chain timer is disabled. If I would go back in and go back into the configuration and go into the SubHub functionality and enable this, and then go back into the sublist chain, now you'll see that the sort order is enabled as well as the hours available. We'll talk more about this here in a little bit, this actual screen, but you can see though what the chain timers configuration does. And if I did have this set up and then I turned off chain timers, but then I wanted to enable it again, it does retain the settings that I had here. So it's not like you have to start over again. So, okay. Andrew, how does the charging work? Like, does MCITCs and we build districts? That's a good question. I'm not sure how that's all going to work yet. So that's a great question to ask during the pilot touch base. So, so definitely mark that one down, Andrew. So we can talk about that the next time we meet. Okay, go back to the last configuration option I want to show you guys, or I think the second to the last, is the visibility configuration. This one's pretty basic. It's just basically, do you want the position code to be displayed on the sub request, or do you want the position's description to be displayed on the sub request? That's all that that's doing. So not a whole lot to that one. Now the urgency configuration is the kind of the one I wanted to get into. If I go back and just go back down to my configuration, this is the last one here that we're talking about. And I'm going to go back to the slide. So this controls how the sub notifications are handled based on how soon those leave requests occur. Now, this is just an example here. The district can change the hours notification for urgent and no notifications to whatever they want. But I'm going to use the example we have in here. So let's say I set up urgent 48-hour notice. So any leave requests submitted between 24 and 48 hours, those notifications are going to be marked as urgent. So on the email, you'll see that. On the text, you'll see that. They'll be marked with an urgent. If for the no notifications, if there are any leave requests submitted within 24 hours, so under 24 hours, then an automated substitute notification is not sent. This is an expectation that the district is going to be handling those assignments and notifying those subs manually. So this is basically just an urgency configuration. So we're gonna take you through an example here. This next slide, I hope is helpful. So again, the same urgency configuration, and I have an example here. Second shift custodian, and let's talk about some scenarios here. So let's not even look at the second box yet. Let's just look at the urgency configuration. And so the leave request was submitted Monday at 9 a.m. But the assignment doesn't begin until its shift on Tuesday at 3 p.m. So that's a window of 30 hours there. That's in between the 24 and the 48. So what that means is when that notification is sent, with the job assignment available, there will be an urgent attached to that notification. So let's use another example. So a leave request was submitted at 9 a.m. on Tuesday for a job that's supposed to start later that day. So less than, about 6 hours from there. This is underneath the no notification hours. So it's less than 24 hours. So the result, no automated substitute notification is sent. The district must contact the sub manually. And then this third one is probably the one we'll see probably most often is they usually, a lot of their leave requests are done ahead of time. So in this type of situation, the leave request was submitted on Friday, but the leave doesn't start until Tuesday. That's more than 48 hours from now. So above the urgency notification. So that's just going to submit or send a regular notification. There's going to be no urgent attached to it. So that's what the urgency does. So the urgency determines the type of notification. Is it urgent or not? Or that it won't send one at all because it's underneath the no notification hours. One other thing I want to talk about, and we'll get into the substitute list chain in a little bit, but I just felt like it was important to talk about this because of the urgency notifications. In our substitute list chain, there is an hours in advance. So how long in advance a leave request must be submitted for this chain to be used. So this controls whether a notification is even sent based on the chain. So, or based on the hours in advance. So what this basically means is if I submitted a leave request, let's say 30 hours in advance, so it's going to qualify for an urgent. However, if the matching substitute list chain requires 48 hours in advance, that request is not eligible and it will not go through a list chain and will not be sent. So this one is pretty critical. This is basically determining whether a sub notification is sent via that list chain at all. So, so that's something to keep in mind. The urgency marks it as urgent or not, or whether it's not even submitted, but this determines if it's either going to even go through the list chain in order for the sub to get notified. So just things to think about. I haven't tried several different scenarios yet, but I've noticed that I'm like, why am I not getting a notification? And it's because it's not, via that list chain, it's not meeting that hours in advance. I know it's a lot to process. I wish trying to find like the best way to explain that, but I did want to talk about the urgency and also the hours in advance. Any questions? Okay, clear as mud, right? Okay, that wraps up the configuration options. So like I said, a lot of these are in your news district checklist. So, you can see, just kind of going through some of these, the importance of having some of these set up, obviously, before district gets started. So, so I just wanted to touch upon those ones that I know are SubHub specific. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and move on and talk about the actual sub-management area of SubHub. So this is what the district is, going to be involved with, basically. I mean, obviously, they're going to be doing some system setup as well. You're going to be helping them with that. But here is where the district will have control over the subs stored in here, their sub list and list chains, being able to view their sub requests, and all of that good stuff. So let's go through these here. On this slide, I just have links to the documentation and explains each of these in a little more detail. But our substitutes is basically where the district will maintain their subs manually or via a sync from USPS. So let's tackle that one first here. So I'm going to go into the substitutes. And I've added quite a few columns to my grid, just so you can see. I'm going to click on the more, added everything. So all of this information's in here. But basically, this is where your sub information is stored. So what's nice is you can go in and filter in here. So you can go in and create the subs in here manually. So I can click on create. And when I do that, you'll notice anything with like a bullet next to it is a required field. So need to have first name, last name, their email address, at least one. You also have options for a secondary or other, their phone number, and then the position codes that they're tied to. So, and you can pick more than one here. So once those are all selected, you click on create and it will be added to the grid. Now, what I feel like most are going to be doing is they're going to be syncing those subs that have already been set up on the payroll side into SubHub. And that's where the sync USPS subs will do that. So when you click on that, it will go out to USPS, look for those subs that meet that criteria of, making sure that the substitute field is enabled, and it will pull that information in and populate it, and then those will be stored in here. We do have a mass load option too. If I go down to mass load, we do have a way to go in and mass load subs via a spreadsheet as well. So that is another option. Once those subs are entered in here and they are created, what's going to happen is they are going to get an email notification. Basically, welcome to SubHub with instructions for them, for the sub, and how to get started. So this is a screenshot of what that looks like. So like I said before, subs do not have an actual user account. So once they're added to SubHub, via that substitute grid, or they get synced in with USPS, what's going to happen is they'll get this welcome email. Sorry, it's kind of a little hard to read, but it just basically says you've been registered as a sub. You may view your sub profile and update your notifications at this link. So when they click on that link, it'll take them into I think they have the OTP, one-time passcode verification, but it'll take them into their notification preferences in SubHub. And it says here then, your notification preferences, you can enable or opt in to email or texting. I believe email is already enabled by default, but they will have to opt in to the texting part. They can also enter in the time range where they want to receive their notifications. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get into the notifications. Also, they can put in blackout dates. So it's just telling them the things that they can do. And then it does have a note here again that your texting will be off by default. You must opt in to receive text. And then down here, it just has a link to the SubHub guide. It takes them into the getting started and just how they go in and accept or view, accept, cancel sub openings. So all of that's in that welcome email. Okay, go back in here. So just talk a little bit more about what you're seeing here in the actual sub guide. I'm just going to view one of these here. So again, Doug's already set up in here, got his email address. He's got the position codes that he's tied to. Archiving. You'll notice here there was an archive box in there, and we also have an archiving option in here as well. So right now, if for some reason the sub needs to be archived, they're not going to be using them anymore, they can go in and click on the archive option, and it will archive them in SubHub. Now, one enhancement that's coming, I think pretty soon here, is the ability, if you go into USPS to archive a sub, what will happen then, it will sync eventually, or enhancement, it will sync with SubHub, and it will automatically archive the sub in SubHub as well. So that way you're not doing it in two different places. So that is a future enhancement that's coming that allow you to archive them in payroll, and then they'll get automatically updated here and archived in here as well. That way, like I said, you're not going back and forth between the two applications. I think that's it with subs. Do you guys have any questions just about, creating subs or any of the information in here? When we get into notifications, I'll talk a little bit more about their settings that the subs have. So the sub list is where, like I said, in ESS, we have the group and the group chains. This is very similar. We've got sub lists and sub list chains. And this is the whole notification process of how those subs will get notified based on the leave request and the position tied to that leave request. And so in here, we do have a few sub lists created. And so the sub lists are pretty basic. I can go in here and I can create one manually. And you'll see here that I can enter, it's required, obviously, the list name. And I can add one or more position codes in here. And then if I want to add specific substitutes, those can be selected as well. And if no substitutes are selected, the SubHub will automatically include all subs for that position. So I can be specific and say, yeah, I want this to be bus drivers, but I want specific people for bus driver subs for this list. And after I select bus drivers, I can go in here then. And as long as those subs are out there underneath the subgrid, they've been added in SubHub, I can select from them, and then only those particular subs will be included in this sub list. So I'll show you here the custodian one. So this is very basic. I just have the custodian assignment, which could be several, but I just want Drew to be the one that gets that's tied to this sub list. Let's see. So in order to use a list chain, the sublist obviously has to be created. Just a couple other things before we leave this one is that I do have the ability to delete as long as that's not currently being used in a list chain. I could delete. I could also archive. If I don't want to delete, I'd rather just archive them. I can archive the sublist as well. Again, it can't be used in the list chain in order for it to be archived, so you'd have to remove it from the list chain first before you can archive the substitute list. So those are the different options. We also have the ability to export a substitute list report in order to, if we want to forward that in an email to somebody, but you do have the ability to generate a report. And we also have the ability to export the information on the grid. So we do have export grid items in here like we do with our other applications. So once a substitute list is created, then we have the list chain. So here is basically, you can't create a list chain without a substitute list. So once we have those substitute lists created, we can go in and create a list chain. And I'm just going to view the one that we already have out here. And so obviously it's going to require a name. And then here's where I was talking about that hours in advance earlier. So how long in advance a leave request must be submitted for this chain to be used. So if it's not within the hours in advance, it's not going to go through that list chain and the subs are not going to get notified. So that's, something to keep in mind as to what the district wants to use for their hours in advance. The position codes here, assigning what position codes, you can add more than one here. You can also assign a building and department codes and narrow it down even further in here as well. So those are options that are available as well. And obviously you would just click on the drop down, get into edit, and be able to pull those. So those are coming from payroll. And then we have the actual substitute lists that we want to add. And once we add a particular substitute list, it's going to display in this grid down here. Now, right now I have my chain timers enabled. And because I do then, I can sort and put in available hours that I want those particular sublists to get notified before the next one does. So if I don't need to do this in a particular order and I want everyone to be notified at once, then I can disable those chain timers. And like I said, I won't have this option or the sort order option enabled anymore. Those won't be anything that I can then change or prioritize. So once the list chain then is saved and it's available, then obviously when a leave request gets submitted through that particular position, for that particular position, it'll look at the list chain and decide who gets notified when, and then those notifications will be sent out to the subs. Okay. Any questions so far on what we're seeing in the substitute management menu here? We discussed subs, sublists, and sublist chains so far. Those are also part of the SubHub district setup. So that comes at the end of that checklist where these then will need to be set up. Okay, the last two involve the actual sub requests. So once a leave request is submitted from ESS with a substitute needed, they are going to be stored underneath the substitute request grid. So lots of information on here, and I haven't even added everything, but I've added the stuff that was important to me. What is the status of that sub request? So you either got pending, canceled, or accepted. So as you can see, got a lot of pending ones in my test account here that were never filled, and that's okay because this is just a test account. But I've got the pending. This, if it was accepted, it's going to fill in the substitute's name. Obviously, the date and the start and end time of the sub position. And then I can put in here, I put in the, or included the column for the position code because I just wanted to have that on here as an easy reference. When it was created, the request, any sub comments, I can put those in here if I want to. And also I can add like the address information. Like I said, as long as underneath core codes on the USPS, enter the address information and there, it will then appear on the sub request here. And they will also, the address information will be included in the notification that gets sent to the sub once they accept the job. So this is just like a working grid, just to kind of say, hey, this is where we're at. I can go in and filter this and say, yeah, I just want to see all accepted so far. Or if I wanted to see, what's been canceled, I can select by canceled and see those. So these would be either things that were canceled manually in here, or they were canceled on the ESS side. The employee no longer needs a sub that day. They no longer need that leave request. So they're going to cancel the request. When they do, it syncs over to SubHub and it cancels the request in here as well. So as the sub coordinator, I can go in here and update these myself. If I wanted to go in and assign the sub for some reason, person wasn't assigned, but they are going to be working that particular day, I could go in and edit this, and I can select the sub and then save that. And that way it's on record, and I'm pretty sure they would be getting the notification as well that they accepted that position. So, somebody with that elevated role, sub coordinator hire, can go in. A standard user is not going to see the edit or obviously the delete. They're just going to see the view icon in order just to view them. So, Julie, will this work well for subs that are contracted? Example, COG substitute teacher. I'm not sure, Julie, what you mean by that. Could you unmute and explain that in a little more detail?
Yes, a lot of the districts are in with a COG or something where all of their teachers are coming from. An example would be Southwest Ohio Council of Government. So they have a COG, they have 22 school districts that they provide substitutes with. And I know that there's other entities of this as well. So would that be handled well in the SubHub?
It will eventually. We do have, we are working on that, and that's going to be on the last slide where, because we have, like ESCs where they want to work out, they want to work out of one SubHub application, but they have multiple schools. So right now, this is just one school capability. But we are working on that and looking into that. So that's why COG ESCs aren't part of the pilot, because we don't have those capabilities right now, but we're hoping to be working on that this year and have the ability for them to go in and track those for multiple districts.
So this only functions if their subs are in-house, correct? In district subs.
Right, for just that one district, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Great questions, you guys. Thank you. I'm going to go back here. And the last thing I wanted to show you guys underneath this menu is the substitute management, or I'm sorry, the unfilled requests underneath substitute management. So we just went through the substitute requests. The unfilled is basically filtering out the ones that are still pending, just an easier grid just to see that information. And so in here on the unfilled, I know that, and of course, obviously you could filter here to see, you know, specific people that still need a sub. So Kristen's got a lot of leave requests that she submitted where a sub hasn't filled her position yet. So you can go in and filter this. One enhancement that we are planning to make on this one is to create a job to automatically generate and email unfilled request reports to, you know, those in the district that need them. So they know, hey, we've got, you know, these unfilled positions and it's coming close to when these subs are needed. So that is something, I think that sub 47, we're going to create a job to automatically send those out to the people that need to know this information. Otherwise, right now, the sub coordinator is kind of looking at this to get this information as to what's still outstanding. Okay. That basically is the sub management menu in a nutshell. So obviously on our slide here, we have links to all the different areas in the documentation that goes into that in greater detail. And these are going to change. We're going to have new features, new enhancements, improvements made to these. And, you know, it's, you know, good for, you know, for you guys as the ITCs to make sure that you're out there looking at the SubHub project in JIRA and just kind of see what's out there, what's in progress, what's being worked on, and the future enhancements that are out there so that you can better, you know, inform your districts on what's on the horizon. Okay. What we're going to wrap up with then is the substitute experience. So we've talked about configuration, then we moved into what the districts are going to manage on the SubHub side, and now we're going to talk about the subs themselves and what they're going to experience. So, you know, I kind of explained this earlier that they do get a welcome email once their SubHub account is set up. Once once they're a user or listed, as a sub in SubHub, not a user, but an actual sub, and they've been added to the SubHub application. So once that happens, like I said, they'll get this email. And then from there, they're going to click on this preferences link in order to get to their preferences. Now, what happens then when they click on that link is they will be able to go in and update that information in their preferences. And I think I have that down here real quick. So once they click on that link, it's going to take them into their preferences. And this is not a great screenshot, but I will get into one shortly here where we'll be able to go in and change your start and ending time, go in and enter any blackout dates that she doesn't want to sub on those days. Maybe she's on vacation, but we're going to go into all those preference settings in a little bit. But this slide just kind of explains what she has available to her underneath her notification preferences. What we're going to do, I'm going to scroll back up here, is we're going to act like a sub. I'm going to become Lindsay Rhodes here, and Lindsay's going, she's already received some emails about some sub openings, and we're going to accept those. We're going to click on those emails, and then we're going to actually go in and accept some of those positions. So this is what Lindsay's going to see when she gets the email, or if she's already set up her preferences for text, she'll get a text message. And basically it just says a substitute request is available, and it's on this day. And in order for you to see the details, you need to click on the link that's provided. So like I said, she's either going to get this through email or text, whatever, you know, she set herself up for. And then it's going to include the direct link. Now, when she clicks on this link, it is before she can view the assignment, she needs to go through the one-time passcode. So here is what she'll do. So when she clicks on that link, she'll get a little box here, and it's going to say, I want to send a code via email, or she used text. It can do that. And then it will, and once she clicks on this, what's going to happen, she'll either get an email or a text with her one-time passcode code number. So once she receives that, she can copy that, and then that verification code window will already be opened, and she'll just paste that in here and click on verify, and then it will take her then to the actual sub-assignment details. So the OTP is really about a three-step process. You click on the link, that takes you to the verification, tell me how you want it sent, get the OTP code, enter the OTP code, and then you're in. And so once she's in there, then she'll be able to view the assignment details. And this screenshot just includes, you know, what all she's seeing. I believe we have some additional enhancements that need to be made to this, but this is kind of where we're at right now with those. And I'll get in as Lindsay here in a little bit and show you. So she'll be able to view the assignment details, and then these are the steps on how she can accept that open assignment, and just some important notes when accepting an assignment. And so when she accepts this assignment, she'll select the one that she wants. This is a leave request that it's 3 days, but she just wants to select the first day. So she clicks on that. It changes from available to selected. And then she clicks on accept assignment. She'll get a pop-up box. Are you sure you want to accept this? She clicks on yes. And this is what the screen looks like afterwards. Accepted by you. And then the other two are still showing as open for somebody else, from some other sub to accept. She can also mute notifications. So, you know, she only accepted that first day, but she doesn't want to get notifications again about the other two. What if, you know, it doesn't go, it goes unfilled today. She doesn't want to get another notification later about those. She could mute those. So what she would do is she would select the one that she wants to mute, click on mute notifications, again, a pop-up. Are you sure you want to mute this notification? And once she says yes, she will no longer receive notifications about that particular assignment. So there is an option too, and like I said, I'll go through this here in a little bit. I just want to show you these screenshots where she can cancel an already accepted assignment. So let's say, you know, she was in here and she accidentally accepted one that she didn't mean to. She can go right in. She's still in that same window. She can go in and select that one and then click cancel selected, again, a confirmation, and that will return that job then back to an available status for some other sub to accept. So she can do that if needed. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and we're going to go and try this out. Now, you know, this always works really well when I'm actually testing it, you know, myself, but when I do it in front of everybody, you know, and show you guys how to do it, sometimes it doesn't work that well, but we're going to give it a shot. I don't have my email up on the screen here, but I'm going to pick on one of these messages that I have in my email, and I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to click on the link to actually view it, and then I'll bring that slide over, or that screen over, so you can see that. I'm going to log out as admin. So I am Lindsay. So here is the code that I get once I click on that assignment to view it, and this is where the OTP comes into play. So this is going to be fixed with our logo here. It's the little bug. So it says, choose how you'd like to receive your verification code. As Lindsay, I only have email set up. I don't have text. So if I had both email and text as underneath my preferences, both of those would show here. I'm just going to click on the email one. And what happens then is it changes this window to a verification code window, waiting for me to get that email with my OTP code so I can copy and paste it in here. So I did, and like I said, you've seen the screenshot. It's a very basic email. It just says, here's your OTP code. So I'm going to copy that code from my email, and I'm going to paste it into here. And then all I need to do is click on verify. And now I'm able to access that open assignment. So as a sub, as Lindsay, I'm looking at the assignment, and it's for Levi, and it's a custodian assignment. And here is the address where it will be located. And then here are the important details. When, I've got the where, and what time. And so I have three that I can, or two actually, that I can choose from. It looks like somebody already took day 3, so accepted by somebody else. So out of the 3 days, I can still, if I want to sub both of these days, I can select those. So I'm going to do that. So I have them both selected, and then I click on accept selected. And then I get a, are you sure you want to accept the following request, which is nice. I can just look it over again. Yes, I want to sub on Wednesday and Thursday, those days. Click on yes. And then you'll see now that it says accepted by you. So now I know that I accepted both of those. Now, and then I will also get an email. And let me get a screenshot of that email here so you can see what that looks like. So this is the email that I just received. So it tells me that I have accepted multiple substitute requests with the following information. This is for Levi, and it's for Wednesday and Thursday, which matches what I just accepted. And then I've got the information up here. I use Gmail, but in here it tells me the street address, which is correct, 200 Birch Street. And then what's nice is that we do have ICS capabilities in here where I can click on this then and add this to my calendar. And so it'd be added to my personal calendar. So that way then the sub can keep track of all the different sub assignments they have accepted in their various districts. So as the sub, they can add this to their personal calendar. There's also, with my Google Mail, I also have directions here where I can get directions on how to get there to sub that day. So pretty nice, pretty easy. They get the notification, whether they get it through text or email. If I'm still in this window and I realize, oops, I did not mean to accept Thursday. I only can sub that day. That's okay. I can go in and select this one and then say cancel selected. Do I want to cancel the accepted assignment? Yes, I do. That makes it available again for somebody else. And I will get another email saying that I canceled that assignment. Let me show you what that looks like. Your sub request canceled. You have canceled a sub request with the following information. So that, you know, they do get that information that, yes, you no longer are filling in for that particular position. So you'll also notice too, when I accepted the job, it kind of, it logged me in here. And I'm basically in SubHub as the sub, and I'm able to, view my substitute calendar, view my preferences, and I also have a little profile record down here. But kind of what I want to get into is being able to go in and updating this information as well. Just a couple other things before we move on any further. If I know I canceled this because I'm not going to be accepting it, but I don't want to get any further notifications about Thursday, I can also select this and click on mute notifications, and I get a pop-up, you will receive no further notifications about these requests. Are you sure you want to mute them? When I say yes, you have muted the substitute request, and I won't get any more texts or emails about it. So just something else to keep in mind. So somebody else accepted day 3, I will no longer get information about day 2, but I have accepted day 1. So as Lindsay, if I go in and look at my substitute calendar and go into July, I will see that custodian assignment. This used to be a grid, and we changed it to a calendar because it's much more mobile friendly that way. But you'll see here where I can go and actually click on that assignment then, and it takes me back to that actual assignment and the day that I accepted. Again, I just go right back to substitute calendar. Obviously, we're in July, so it's defaulting in July, but I'll just move over to August, and I can see any assignments that I selected for that district on this calendar. You'll also see different views in here as well. So different ways that you can see it, depending on, especially I think most subs are going to be using their phone. Depending on the format that they prefer on their phone, they can change that view. What if the absence is canceled and I've muted notifications? Will I get notified? Well, you're saying, Tanya, that as the sub, you canceled the notification. So, or are you saying somebody else canceled it? You already muted that. And yes, you will not get a notification if somebody else canceled it, put it back into the pool of openings, and you've already,
Well, what if the absence itself was canceled by the employee and I've already picked up the absence as a substitute?
You will get notified. Yes.
Okay.
You will definitely get notified. Yes. Because you've accepted it, you can't mute it after that, So if they go in and cancel it, then you will get a notification. You'll get an email or a text saying that job is now canceled. You no longer have to sub. Okay. Another thing, when we're in here, we got in here. Oops, go back. We got in here via an email message with a link for the sub to actually view the assignment. It took us into SubHub. Another way for the sub to get into SubHub without clicking on an actual assignment, I'm going to log out real quick and show you the other way, is this sub access window down here. So let's say, that there are no, they haven't received any notifications about openings, but they just want to go in and just look at, like, what do I have coming up? Or maybe I need to go in and cancel, an actual job that I already accepted. They can use the sub access option to do that. And that is all explained on these upcoming slides here, and how they manage their sub assignments via the substitute access. So, and it goes through their OTP and all of that, but I'm gonna demo it to you instead of showing you the slides this time. And so basically I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a substitute access. And when I do that, like I said, subs do not have an actual user account. They get in via the email and their phone number. And it says if a matching substitute account was found, you will get an email message, which I did, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So the email looks like this. It just says, Lindsay, a request has been received to access your substitute information for Sampleville schools. Use the link below to access your substitute calendar. So when I click on that then, it takes me right in to the same place I was before. But it's taking me right to the substitute calendar area where I can look to see right away, what do I have with this district? Okay, I've got, obviously they probably have their personal calendar or their phone to look at that. But if they needed to go in then and, make any changes, they could do that via their phone, or their laptop. And let's say, I look at this one here and I do need to cancel this. I can go in here and cancel this by selecting it and clicking on cancel selected, and then it will cancel it out and make it available again. So lots of different options where I can go in and make changes to already accepted assignments if I need to, and that's via the substitute calendar. The other thing I wanted to get to in a little more detail are the notification preferences. So these are Lindsay's preferences, where right now, by default, she will receive email notifications. But if she wants to opt in to also receiving text messages, she can enable this to opt in. And I want to show you what happens when she clicks on this. You'll get a pop-up notification, and this is in one of the slides as well. This is the one we talked about earlier. Oh, no, that was the welcome email. This one we haven't seen yet. So this is basically telling her what happens when you opt in for texting. So it just basically says, text messages include notifications on varying frequency regarding new substitute requests becoming available. You'll get a text. Acceptance of a sub request, you'll get a text. Canceling one, you'll get one. Cancellation of original leave request from which the sub request was created. So the district person canceled it, you'll get notified. And reminder of upcoming sub requests. So there is a reminder as well. That one is new. I don't remember that one. So that's pretty cool. So these are the different ways right now that you're going to get notifications via text. So you can opt back out of receiving text messages at any time by coming back in here and disabling it. But that's basically, what you need to do, and you need to click on I agree. You'll get text messages then. This will remain checked. But be also very aware that you need to save after that in order to save those changes. The other things in here, start time and end time. When do you want to receive notifications? So this is all listed in here as well. Sorry, blew right past it. The manage notifications here. So basically, it's saying that you can enter your start and ending times to limit notification delivery hours. So what that means is that you'll never not receive the notification, that just within that time frame, you will not receive notifications. We've got a little DYK here. Notifications outside of allowed hours are delayed, not skipped. So you will receive those notifications once that allowed notification window is open. So if I put in that I don't want to receive notifications between 11 at night and 6 in the morning, I can put this in here. I will not get notifications. I will not get text messages during that time. But once I'm in my available notification window, then I will receive those messages. It's just that I won't receive them during that time. I don't want a text to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to shut it down for a little bit. So kind of consider your start and ending time kind of like your quiet time. Blackout dates, if I'm going to be on vacation, let's say in August, this is my blackout date calendar down here. I can go in here and enter in that blackout date. That way I don't get any notifications for those days. So I can't work from the 9th through the 15th because I'm on vacation. So I would just put in the start time and the ending time and add, and those blackout dates will appear. I believe that's all there is on the actual notification preferences. So again, one thing to keep in mind is once you do make any changes, click on save to save those preferences. And those are really the only two options available in the SubHub app for the sub, either their preferences or being able to look at their existing sub assignments via calendar. So these next few slides, like I said, goes through that and explains all of that. So before we start on this next slide here, do you guys have any questions about the sub side of things? Okay. The last thing here is just some of those future enhancements that I did discuss a little bit today. We do have the ability to, or future ability to customize email and text notification templates. Developers just showed this to us the other day. And it's pretty cool being able to make custom texting and email notifications. So that's something that's on the horizon. Adding a notification log on sub and sub request, just tracking when they received notifications on a sub request. So that's an enhancement that's going to be made here soon. Most of these are things that the developers are currently working on that are in progress or in testing. The automated reminder and repeat notifications for unfilled assignments. I talked about that one earlier, so that specific people will be aware and notified when an assignments go unfilled. The ability to split a full day assignment into partial day. We talked about this one earlier too. I want to be able to assign sub in the morning and a different sub in the afternoon for the same position. How can I do that? So this will allow that to happen. Enhancing the ESS leave requests to identify or to independently assign the sub information per day on a multi-day request. I showed you that a little bit ago when we went into ESS and we looked at the daily details and how the sub information is going to be included at the bottom of each of those details. I know a big one is the ability to export the information to pay the sub in USPS. And the archiving, that was another thing I talked about, where right now you can manually archive in ESS or in SubHub, but you will be able to archive in USPS, and those will get updated. Those subs will get updated in SubHub automatically as an archived status. And the one that was brought up earlier too is about the future future support for SubHub instance to be connected to multiple ESS and USPS districts so that they can just work out of one SubHub application. So I know that that's something that they're talking about and getting information on. Okay. The last thing I have here is just support links about our different guides. Like I said, we went through the implementation guide earlier, just, the little basic steps that need to be done. the user manuals out there for the district to review. We got the substitute guide for the sub to review. Our new district checklist, which is tied to the implementation. And also I just included like some of the PowerPoints we did in the past. We did an overview back in May. So a lot of that information's listed in there. We did do a feature article in the June newsletter about SubHub. So those details are in there, and obviously any, improvements, major improvements, enhancements that are made, we're going to keep you guys aware of that and keep you guys posted on the progress of the pilot period. Our June, we went through updates that were made in SubHub. And so we have the June PowerPoint, and then the one that you're looking at right now is the July one. Those are all resources that you guys can access. And, our future support resources, we're going to be doing a demonstration of SubHub at OEDSA. So that's definitely a session we'll be doing there in September. And then one thing I mentioned last month when we met was creating some short targeted video clips for the subs, like with quick referencing guidelines on how you accept a sub assignment, how do you cancel one, how do you, mute one, stuff like that. We're going to have those short videos too, and link those so that subs can look at a video instead of reading through materials. So I'm better with a visual than reading through them. So that's kind of where we're at right now in regards to, what's coming up. So do you guys have any questions? I know that was a lot of information, and I figured it was going to go about 2 hours, but, we'll make sure that we have this, a recording out there so you guys can look through this again if you need to, or if you want to look at certain sections or share certain sections, that's fine. But, we just wanted to provide a basic overview again of all the different options available in SubHub. Guys don't have any further questions. I don't see anything in the chat. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to go through the overview again with me. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. This was great.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too.